Yo, what's going on guys, Mander here, and due to high demand, I will be making an Affliction Warlock guide. It will talk about the talents, the gear, the stats, the macros I use, some add-ons, the talents I use, the PvP talents, and most importantly of all, the rotation. But in my opinion, what beats out all of that is watching someone actually play Affliction Warlock or whatever spec you're trying to learn in Arena on a Twitch stream or YouTube video and whatnot. So make sure you go check out my other videos if you want to see gameplay, or my Twitch stream, which I'll be streaming on Tuesday through Saturday at 7 p.m. EST. So let's just get into the talents I use. I use all these talents right here. It's you have Demonic Hellstone, obviously. You go to Soul Conduit, Soulburn. These are all three necessities, and I go with the Strength of Will and then Resolve. I go with Nightmare. I've seen some people, they don't go into Nightmare and they get extra Drain Life / Shadow Bolt damage, which I think this would be good if you were to be playing Soul Harvester, but I've mainly been playing Hellcaller. I think Hellcaller overall is better right now. So I go into Nightmare, which is, it takes more damage to break your fear. So it sits, a second or two longer if you're doing damage into someone. And I go down here, Frequent Donor, Amplify Curse, obviously the Demonic Circle, like all this matters. Now if you really wanted to get that extra 7% Drain Soul or Shadow Bolt damage, you can take it out of Abyss Walker and put it here if you want to. Or maybe you can even get Dark Fury, it gets you more Shadow Fury and Radius, but I'd probably just go into Drain Soul damage. But for now, I'm going with Abyss Walker. And for hero talents, I'm obviously using Wither. As I said, I'm using Curse of the Satyr, which applies weakness and tongues to someone. This is, it's solid. So you don't have to really think about which curse you're putting, tongues or weakness or exhaustion. You'd have to, you choose between Satyr and exhaustion. But it's just mainly that this aura of enfeeblement it's not very good. Like when you wall, that makes it so everyone around you has weakness when you can just have that on them anyway. And then I go hate fury rituals. It gives you 30% more wither damage, but it's 15% shorter. I think it just gets more value for the wither damage than being Blackheart Tactics, because it just gives you an extra 10% wither damage, just doing max damage really. And I'm going for the Dark Pact healing because it does a lot of healing to you, obviously. And I think it's just overall more valuable than the extra 15% absorb of your health. Because if you Dark Pact and it lasts like 20 seconds, or like let's say you're not the kill target and you go against like dot classes or something, you can get almost a full Dark Pact, and it'll heal you for 80k every second. I guess you really could change it out if you're going against like Ret War and they're training you, and your Dark Pact is going to destroy instantly because they're obviously going you. So you could go Ilhu's design if that is the case, which I am not opposed to. And then the rest of these talents are all stagnant. So now for my actual Affliction build over here, I opt out of the Focus Malignancy. I don't really need the Rapture damage, I don't think, and that reduced cast time on Haunt is really good because Haunt does a lot of damage alone, and you get more damage by Haunt, 35%, and I'm hitting for like 1.2 mil Haunts crits sometimes, 700k normals, so Haunt is very powerful right now, especially paired with Soul Rot and things like that. Then obviously you go into Relinquish to get more soul shards, and then I'm going into the Ravenous Afflictions, so I get more Nightfall procs, so I can drain soul more to get more instant cast Raptures. Now this talent though is pretty good, Improved Malefic Rapture, because it reduces the cast time by 10%, so it's not just damage, it's cast time itself, and that's very valuable, especially early in the expansion where you don't have very much haste. And also I do believe that Drain Soul is better than Shadow Bolt right now, at least for the Wither spec, because Drain Soul, every time it takes damage on someone, they have a stack, they take increased shadow damage by you, stacking up to 4 times. for every time they take the damage. So you can Drain Soul someone for like 2 seconds or a second, and you'll get 4 stacks, so they take 16% more shadow damage from you. I think that's just, like, that alone makes it better than Shadow Bolt, because you have to hard cast it, and then you don't get as many stacks. And the Execute is really nice, just to use as a filler whenever they're low HP, or just anytime really. Like, if I have full dots out and I don't need to be doing anything else right now, I can just Drain Soul and it'll just give me instant cast procs. And I am going into Pet Sack here, Grimoire of Sacrifice. It just, I think you gain more than Summoner's Embrace, and just not having it, you just gain more damage. Also, another thing you can do on the Warlock talent tree, you can get rid of Nightmare if you want, or even the 1 point into the technique and get Fell Domination. If you're going against a caster that you want to interrupt really, like, a lot, and you want to shut down a caster, you can have your pet out, kick them, Fell Dom, resummon your pet, and then kick them again, and then Pet Sack. Like, you just get a second CS. That could be good if you want to shut down a caster. Like, let's say you're going against a Destro Warlock, or maybe a Frost Mage, or something that can do a hard cast and do a lot of damage. You might want to go Fell Dom instead of the 8% Drain Soul damage. Oh, this is the talent right here, Shadow Embrace. It stacks up to 4 times, increases their damage. Shadow damage took by 2%. It's actually just I think it was reduced going into the War Within. So it's only 2% instead of 4% now, but either way, you get what I'm saying. Get more value from Drain Soul with this build in particular. I think Drain Soul is good for Wither because it's much more dot oriented compared to hard casting Shadow Bolt and doing a lot of damage with that. So that's why I'm going Drain Soul. I'm just clarifying that because I've had a lot of comments asking me why I'm going Drain Soul instead of Shadow Bolt. Now for PvP talents, I use Soul Swap, Rampant, Afflictions, and Jinx. I think for at least 3v3 Arena, all 3 of these talents are necessary. Soul Swap, so you can Soul Swap your target use Soul Rot and Phantom Singularity, and Rampant Affliction, so you can have UA on everyone, so you can protect your dots and make sure they don't get dispelled at least easily. And Jinx, which makes it so it applies Wither or Corruption, depending on which one you're running, and Agony, and your curse that you casted initially. Now, if you're doing 2v2 Arena and you want to have more single target damage, you could spec out of Rampant Afflictions. It increases your UA damage by 60%, and you can get benefit from like Nether Ward if you're going against casters, or Impish Instincts if you're going against melee. But I would only spec out of Rampant Afflictions if you're playing 2s. I don't think it's worth at all unless you're playing 2v2 Arena. Now moving on to gear, to be honest, I'm not the most optimized gear right now because the PvP season hasn't started, so I don't want to commit to a piece that I'm not going to want later on, or, you know, whatever. But I don't have precog right now, and I don't have a crafted piece right now. But I can tell you the stat priority that you will want as Affliction no matter what, I guarantee. So I'm going as much Haste as possible. Now it says I have more Mastery than Haste, like percentage wise, but I only have 1800 Mastery and 7600 Haste. Mastery just stacks more. But Haste is very, very important for Warlock. And the reason why you went Mastery, or at least a lot of Mastery in the Season 4 of Dragonflight, is that is the end of the expansion where you have like room to play with your stats. Because you don't want to stack just 45% haste, at least not on Affliction, because it gets DR'd and you're not getting the maximum value out of it. But now it's the first season of an expansion, stats are much lower. So, like, I have full honor gear, all of them statted for haste, I only have 12% haste. I have full honor gear, I have 12,000 versatility, I only have 16% versatility. You don't have room to get, take out half your haste and put it into mastery, because then you only have 6% haste, and your casts are just so much slower. And whenever we get conquest gear, you'll probably have around 22-25% haste. It'll be a marginal increase from right now, but it's not enough haste to actually just take it out of your build and put it into mastery, and you just lose damage. You can't cast fear as fast. It's just not worth it. Trust me. Just go full haste and then we'll see next season or the following season if we can get some mastery. Alright, moving on to macros I use Fear 1, 2, and 3. It makes it so you press that button and it casts Fear on Arena Target 1, Arena Target 2, and Arena Target 3. Now you might have to configure your keybinds for this, but trust me, in the end, it's all worth it because you'll become a much better arena player if you can use Fear 1, 2, 3 and your Interrupt 1, 2, 3, assuming you're a caster. If you're melee, the Interrupt 1, 2, 3 is not as important, but anyways, it's very important for a caster to have their CC 1, 2, and 3 and an Interrupt 1, 2, and 3. For mage, it'd be Polymorph. For druid, it'd be Cyclone. Like, that's just very important so you can use those CC abilities much easier. And then I have the CS 1, 2, 3 or Spell Lock 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to call it. Same thing as Fear, but it's for your Interrupt. I have every one of the abilities that can be benefited from Soulburn as a macro. So it automatically casts Soulburn. Like if I want to gate quickly, I'll just press my gate macro. And then it instantly puts up the gate without me having to actually click Soulburn on my bars. Same thing with port. You know, you wanna Soulburn port, you just do that, you click it and it automatically casts it because Soulburn doesn't have a GCD. And same thing with drain life, although you probably should not drain life anymore. It doesn't do very much damage and it doesn't really heal you that much. So you don't really want to press drain life that much, but if, like, let's say in Dragonflight, you want to drain life with Soul Rod up, it would cast Soulburn automatically and it give you that absorb shield that you do with drain life, like right here. And same thing with health funnel. Now it doesn't really matter too much on Affliction or Destro where you're going to be sacking your pet, but on Demo where you need to heal your pet, especially if it's dying, Soulburn health funnel can definitely be good, heals your pet a lot. Now the most important Soulburn macro that automatically uses Soulburn when you press a macro is the Soulburn Demonic Healthstone. It makes it so it increases the healing of the Healthstone by 30% and increases your max health by 20%. It's huge. You want to use Soulburn Healthstone every single time you Healthstone, and if you're not, it's really bad for your survivability. Especially now that in the War Within that you can Healthstone multiple times in one game. Now for damage macros, I just use this Summon Dark Lair macro. It automatically uses my 13 item slot, which would be my on-use trinket if I'm using one. It uses my racial, but I'm no longer a troll or whatever I was, so I don't really have a racial to do on-use damage with. Like if you're an orc or a troll, you can cast Berserking or Rage Fury or Fury's Rage or whatever it's called that gives you extra main stat for orc. I also have a Devour Magic macro, but that only makes sense if you're using no pet sack. So you have your pet out, you'll cast Devour Magic when you click it. Doesn't really matter as much, but if you were to be playing no pet sack, then you would want this. Now for add-ons, what I use for PvP is Bartender, which makes it so I can adjust all my action bars. That's how my action bars look like this. And now I have, you know, these over here and whatnot. Like it just makes it, I like the design of the action bars a lot more with Bartender, like how they look. I think it looks much better, but it's just personal preference. It's not required. You can use whatever action bar add-on you want or none if you want to. It's all up to you. BigDebuffs, that makes it so on your party frames you can see when anyone on your team is CC'd. So let's say your healer is in a full fear, it'll show that as a big icon in the middle of their frame, like character frame on the party frames, and it just makes you more aware of what's happening to your team. Like let's say you're going against RMP, you know they're about to go. If they're pre-sheeping someone, you know, chastise one person, fearing another, you know, whatever it may be, you know they're going, you know to preemptively use something or port or whatever. So you're just more aware in the game. BigDebuffs is a requirement. ClassicNumbers, it's just what I use for my damage numbers right here. It just makes it look like the classic numbers, like in, you know, classic World of Warcraft. It's not required, it's completely optional, and I still need to configure mine because it's a little bit messed up right now with the new expansion. And I use details. You can use details or recount if you want, but that's how you get the damage meters. I just use it so I can see, you know, what my damage breakdown looks like and whatnot. It's not technically required, but I would highly recommend it because you get to see you know, what happened in that arena basically. And let's say your damage is a bit low, you can see what you're doing wrong, or what you need to do more of or less of, whatever the case may be. You just get to see what you did in that arena game to see your damage. Very useful. Now I use FrameSort as well. This doesn't really matter as much as a DPS, but if I was healing, I always use FrameSort. It makes it so you can configure it so you can always be on the top of your party frames, you can always be on the bottom or the middle, whatever you want it to be, but I just make it so I'm always at the top of my party frames, and it just makes it easier for me because how my targeting keybinds work for my team. Not required if you're a DPS, but I would highly recommend it if you're healing. I also use OmniBar, which is huge for any caster or really anyone, but primarily caster players, because you get to track the enemy kicks. Now you get to see, you know, let's say you're trying to fake a warrior's kick, you can see that they used kick and you weren't interrupted, you're probably at precog now, or you can just see if you're able to free cast, like if two casters have no CS, you can just free cast, things like that. It's very useful, and you can configure it if you want to, so you can see the enemy cooldowns like cloak, vanish, and whatnot. So this is also a required add-on in my opinion. Now, OmniCC, it basically makes it so all the cooldowns on your action bars is tracked. You can do this with default Blizzard UI. I just like the way it looks more with this add-on. So like a soul rot, and then it says 1 minute, and then it counts down. It's yellow right now, and then it will turn red whenever it's about to get off of cooldown. I just like it the way it looks more than the default Blizzard UI. So that's an optional add-on, but I recommend it as well. Now, OmniCD, it tracks all your cooldowns of your party. So like, let's say you're playing with a Holy Paladin, you can see what the cooldown is for Bubble, Bop, Land Hands, Wings, all that. So you get to see your teammates' cooldowns and what they have, and if they're trading already or not. It's really useful on a healer, but it's still very, very good on any class in the game. I would say this is a required add-on. The last add-on I use for PvP is sArena. It's your enemy arena frames. I use sArena. You can use Gladius, you can use Gladius EX, you can use whatever you want. I use sArena. I like the way it looks. It makes it easier so I can see the DRs and what they're casting and whatnot. So sArena isn't necessarily required, but some kind of arena frames is required. I would not use the default Blizzard UI ones. They're not very good. And I would at least use Gladius or Gladius EX or sArena. One of those three. Very good. Highly recommended. And that's it for add-ons required or recommended for PvP. Alright, now getting into the rotation itself. This is the important part right here. So let's say these dummies right here are a full 3v3 team. Obviously, they're not going to be stacked like that, at least most of the time. So you're not going to get as much damage as I'm about to do because I'm have Sora on everyone because they're all stacked. But anyways, so let's say, you know, they're coming up here. I want to put UA up as soon as possible into a Curse of the Satyr, so I get full dots on them, and then the same thing with another target. And then you would Soul Rot, Phantom Singularity, Soul Swap that to the third target with no dots, and then extend it with Dark Lair, and then Malevolence, spam Rapture, throw a Haunt in there, use all your Soul Shards, and then Drain Soul whenever you don't have enough Soul Shards, and then use your Soul Shards again, and then Drain Soul, and use your Soul Shards, Drain Soul, instant cast, Haunt, then reapply as you go. Using Curse of the Satyr on him again. Get UA on all three. I have no cooldowns now, so now it's just putting up dots and using your Drain Soul procs and Haunt, instant raptures as you can. Keep up your dots. You want to make sure you keep Agony up as long as possible because it stacks. It puts stacks on them and does more damage. You get more soul shards. I have cooldowns back again. I'm gonna use my thing, and then I don't need to soul swap, or I soul swap it. The third, and then reapply dots on Malevolence, using to cast raptures, rapture, Drain Soul, Rapture, Drain Soul, So yeah, it's just in the opener. The big thing is in the opener, make sure you get full dots on one person and then getting full dots on another. On either of the people you get full dots on, by the way, what I mean by full dots is casting a UA into a Curse of the Satyr, or maybe even using Agony and Wither by itself if you don't have soul shards and whatnot. But you should have soul shards in the opener. So you cast UA into the Curse of the Satyr, and then you Soul Rot, Phantom Singularity, and then you soul swap that to the third target with no dots, and then you extend it with Summon Dark Glare, and that's your damage cooldowns. And then you want to use Malevolence, and then Rapture, Haunt. If you're trying to kill down or beat down a single target, you can Haunt them. It hits really hard. Or if you're trying to AoE everyone, you can Rapture as much as you can until you don't have soul shards, and then use Haunt and then Drain Soul if you have no soul shards. It's pretty simplistic after your opener, because all you have to do then is just make sure you keep your dots on all three targets as much as possible. You want to be multi-dotting as much as possible as Affliction. So like I want to, let's say I have no cooldowns right now, I want to make sure I have UA and my two other dots in my Curse. So I have Curse of the Satyr and UA on all three people right here, and then I keep renewing them or reapplying them as the arena goes, and then that's how you do a lot of your damage. And then Drain Soul in between, Haunt them in between, and then once you have cooldowns back, obviously do the same opener I was talking about earlier. You would Soul Rot and then Phantom Singularity, because you'll get one Soul Rot without Dark Glare. So you just use Soul Rot and Phantom Singularity and Rapture and Haunt as much as possible. Now, I never use Seed of Corruption in PvP, at least in Arena. In RBGs or Battleground Blitz, it could be good. I don't really know. I don't do BGs as much, but you're just kind of required to get Seed of Corruption for your other talents. So I have Seed of Corruption, but I just never press it in Arena. But that's it for your rotation, and that's it for the video too. If this video helped you at all, make sure you like and subscribe and comment if you want to say anything to me. If enough of you comment about having a demo warlock guide, I could do that too. And I can start playing Destruction more. If you want a Destruction warlock guide or just gameplay in general, just let me know. And I will be streaming the day that this video comes up through Saturday. So that's Tuesday through Saturday at 7 PM EST. So make sure you're there. But that's going to be it for this video. See ya.